let me start off. Karen's from ad agency DDB and heads up strategy across a variety of brands, across digital, TV commercials, radio, all sorts of stuff. And Paul is man about town, entrepreneur, been in the travel industry a long time, consultant to Tourism Victoria, Tourism Australia as well?
Not recently. I was actually head of digital at Tourism Victoria for many years, so that's my claim to fame there. But I've just done some work for Tourism Ireland.
Right.
But,
Are you sure? To be sure?
To be sure.
To be sure. Okay, very good. And Alana on the end is has a diverse background and also runs a record label called We Are Road, which is monetising, exciting creative music that changes people's lives in interesting ways, whether it be selecting a song, finding a piece of art that Mercedes wants to pay a lot of money for because it inspires people to drive that car and feel good. And some of this stuff comes from nowhere. It comes from a guy or a girl in their bedroom creating something magical. And Alana helps monetize that art in a really good way. So, okay, list of questions. Sorry?
It's a good sell.
Oh, there you go. Got the job. I'm going to go to the second question. What tech has, this is actually to the whole group. Can I turn this down a little bit? I've got a bellowing sort of voice. Sorry. Oh, I'm a rock singer. What tech has anyone in the room seen that might disrupt a part of the entertainment sector, apart from Jenna's tonight? Is there anything that anyone's seen on a website? Could be a viral video app or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah? No.
Is this one? Yeah, cool. I think AI is incredibly disrupting the music space. Just from my experience, it was definitely something that we wanted to look in as a music company, trying to be innovative for young artists. I know that there's a company out of LA called Amper who's trying to use AI for songwriting to create, based on an algorithm, what the next best hit is supposed to sound like. I don't think it's quite created anything amazing yet, but they're definitely trying to fill that space. Even in the 90s, I know that David Bowie was partnered with a company in San Francisco, I think, that was trying to use AI for lyrics for songs. And I think that's definitely the space that a lot of the music industry is trying to crack into. I know that for us, we were trying to crack into A&R to try and use platforms like Spotify using their APIs and YouTube to read algorithms based on engagement from the artist and a person who has no idea who they are. If they're going to instantly love it and if they're going to interact with it, what that means to us as a record label to kind of predict what the future looks for them. I think I think it's definitely disrupting the traditional norms of A&R for us.
Can I disrupt your argument for a second?
You can.
Some of us sort of, 30s or 40-year-olds would remember Frank Zappa, who was an amazing artist. And there's a great Facebook video where he talks about modern day record labels, and I know you're doing great stuff. And it's like, this was like filmed in the 60s or the 70s. He goes, yeah, they hired all these young dudes, they look cool, they got mustaches, whatever, and they've taken over the record labels, and the old guys with cigars are going, sell me something. Make sure something sells, and so they hire the young dude. Yeah, I know what this is about. I know what this scene's about. And Frank Zappa said they don't have a goddamn clue. So, and in my view, growing up with 80s music and 90s grunge and so forth, is potentially. Can I just have a little bit more, Kate? Turn up the amp, man. Turn up the amp. But there's some of that creativity or that gut feel to go, you know what, that song is a hit. You all feel it, you hear it for the first time, it's like, that's a hit. Why is it a hit? We could all perhaps try and, chemically sort of dissect it, but maybe it's just magic. And maybe AI now with all the CPU capacity and sort of pattern matching might be able to do that. I don't know. But to your point, Alana and I were talking, and Spotify actually finds music that you actually like, and all those data points potentially able to be mapped. So I don't know, where are we? I don't know. We're all in the matrix. So I might move on. Who invested in Spotify? Just as an example. Anyone invested in Spotify?
I wish I did.
Wish I did. Why didn't you? It's not, sorry, it's a bit of a bold question, but
I never had the opportunity.
never had the opportunity. Ah, it's interesting.
It's still a big risk.
You can't.
Spotify's a big risk.
You can't.
Okay, yeah.
You can't. Ordinary people like us can't afford to invest in companies like that. The scale and the risk is so high. It's 100 to 1 payoff. You know, you've got to invest in so many before you can get to that kind.
No, I agree to your point in how do you pick a winner? You know, is it a horse race? Is it, you know?
There were 10 Spotify. Only one of them made it.
Yeah.
I don't know who they were, but there were 10 of them.
And another sort of competitor that's still in the market is Pandora.
Yeah.
There were some Aussie guys, and he actually plays in my band, the Chief Product Officer of Cavera, which was Australian-based.
You shouldn't have mentioned that.
I know. But Cavera was an Australian competitor to Spotify, and they raised a bunch of money, perhaps through the wrong angles.
No perhaps about it.
I'm sorry?
No perhaps about it.
No perhaps about it, absolutely.
I just wanted to ask, just from an industry point of view, what do you see as being someone like a company that would compete with Spotify that would wipe them out and it not be relevant?
What could it be?
It's too far down the track for that to happen now.
Yeah.
No,
The thing that makes them successful now is not the technology, but who they're embedded with in the business side.
Correct.
they're a mature technology. They are.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way they miss out is if it's a huge technology shift that they're not across, and someone
That's the only
someone
thing
eats
that
their
would
lunch.
tip it for
Yeah,
being-
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Or obviously the Google Play or the Apple Play versions of the Google Play. But I think that the big guys are looking to chew away slowly as well.
Oh, they are, but the big guys' brands in trying to take over everything isn't really helping them at the same time.
But it's like why Apple's never got anywhere with streaming TV, etc. Because the streaming TV companies do not want to let them get enough power to do anything. Because look what they did to the audio industry, they don't want to happen to them. And to a degree, that sort of dynamic's always happening in LA, because that's where everything happens, what makes the decisions on these things. Where they're manoeuvring each other, that certain companies are investing in different companies at different stages. Like Disney's bringing up their own streaming system to compete with Netflix. There's lots of strategic things happening now, because we know that cable television is it's in its dying days. There's lots of movement going around, but if you're saying what's going to disrupt these guys today, the only thing you can really do is make something that's interesting enough that they'll come and buy you. You'll never disrupt them completely.
I guess and it'd be interesting to hear what maybe a couple of the others might comment on this. I think that one of the biggest challenges on the web at the moment is the monetisation of content. So, the challenge is I'm currently doing some work for private media and ENTTecH Travel, a product go-to-market strategy for them, trying to monetise some content. And that's what you do. And obviously you want to help people do that. But I'd be interested to know if, as angel investors, if somebody has a cool solution to that, I think we'd be pretty interested in that. Not only to, make money, but I think the world would be a little bit in place.
I had one question. Going back to your AI and the disruption, in terms of making songs and production, do you see the post-production, etc., AI driving a lot of that in terms of the mixing and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I mean, that's one side of it. There definitely is AI that already exists to master your songs within half an hour. Currently, there are still people earning. I know that we paid $2,000 to have an album mastered just in the last month, and that's kind of the top level. That's already able to be done in half an hour at quite a high level for less than $30. So it's
Jesus.
taking out employment already.
So
for the
it's already
music
happened.
industry,
Okay.
definitely.
Mates of mine use it, and I mean, there's sort of bespoke, sort of, sort of artistic, sort of, you might get a guy to mix, master your CD, and spend, 4 days on it.
How long?
4 days or more. But it's not the initial mix. It's really just sort of leveling the frequencies and so forth. But for someone to create a software like that with all the musicians in the world, can use this for $30 and sound like, anyone now. Apparently, this is the Acme Cube.
You throw it and it's the microphone.
Yes. Here you go. It's a bit like a music festival, but.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Okay, I'm going to call out this AI stuff in production. I've been in production all my life. I'm 50 now, so it's probably 25 to 30 years. And I've been in software development in production industries all my life. And I study all this stuff about AI, etc. AI is only as good as what you feed into it.
Correct.
And that's exactly right. But it doesn't have the emotional or impact of being a human being.
Yep.
Right? So we can feed stuff into an AI to make something that sounds like the top 20 tracks, which are on the top 20 tracks at the moment. And it'll spit out something that kind of sounds like it. But it's never going to be something that has an emotional impact on what people are thinking today, because an AI can't be a person. It can't have the relationship that people have against each other, and the tracks which tend to become more successful are the ones which are affecting us on an emotional level.
Yeah.
And I can't see an AI being emotional.
Yeah.
So
I definitely agree. I mean, I'm on the music side of it. I'm pushing for employees on the music industry to sit there and create something, but at the same time, think about vinyl. I mean, I know it has a comeback, but it has a better sound quality than MP3s do. And look at what happened over the last 30 years. It's changing, and I think that people are going to go, it's a cheaper cost, I just want that. If it's going to sound okay, and I feel like I'm at least mastering it. There are songs landing on Triple J radio that aren't even mastered. And they're touring all over the world.
well, you're talking about the good enough. I call it the good enough syndrome, which has completely devastated the production industry. And that is the fact that as long as it's good enough, you kick it out. People are interested enough, you hit the audience you want. Like in the days when I first started in production, everyone took production to the nth degree, and their career was on it, and they made sure it was the best it could possibly be. That culture is gone. Now it's how cheap can it be?
Absolutely. I totally agree about creating a work of art. And conversely, if it's about commerce and an investor getting a return on their investment, or a record label going, well, shit, we can turn out, 10 artists like this, a blonde girl, with big boobs, shaking her booty, and a sort of a black dude going, yeah, man, it's about the money, or pop a cap in your ass, or whatever. 10 of those dudes, right, and master them in, a week, and they can make the same return on investment as a record label. It sort of makes sense, Is it bad for us all? Probably. Do we have great music today? I don't know.
I still think there will be people who still go to the nth degree. It's just that there's a lot more noise out there. That's
True.
I think Alana needs to be able to answer that. What's the future for record labels in that world?
It's a big question.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think that's probably the reason why I'm here. I'm representing the music industry from a technology point of view, and we are definitely trying to innovate ourselves to keep up. I mean, no one would have thought, 30 years ago that people would be illegally downloading music on the internet. No one would have thought that. And so us as industry representatives have to think ahead and have to think of what we want to invest our time in. And I think that's why we started as a business thinking about the possibility of having, AI pushing our A&R work. So we're not having 3 different people putting out to gigs in North Melbourne, South Melbourne, and whoever where,
Yeah.
It made sense for us to keep pushing the technology point instead of just sitting behind and just pushing music is great and it'll save itself.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think every generation, whether it's the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, had a message, and whatever that content is. So I'm just wondering, Karen, how do brands engage with music, to influence people to buy beer, Mercedes, and how does music perhaps act as a conduit and resonate emotionally with the audience?
My creative director will hate that that's been addressed to me as a strategist. Answer those questions. Yeah.
Turn it off. Off the record?
Off the record. No, I think it's really important. It is. It's really. I mean, music is emotional. It's really important in terms of whatever a brand is communicating as part of the story, and that's what you're telling. It's telling the story on behalf of the brand to put it out there and hope that it captures the imagination, hope that people relate to it, hope that people want to be a part of that, and music is fundamental to that. I'm not best placed to talk about how technology is influencing that because we don't. Well, I certainly don't. Creative productions team may well spend a lot more time in that space than I do. But yeah, music's fundamental in terms of its role it plays in a commercial sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you have access to a lot more music now in your creative directors?
I'm sure they do, but again, as a strategist, I'm at the other end of the table.
Karen?
I can help, because in Tourism Victoria, when I was in Melbourne, music was a very big decision for all of our, particularly our 3D public advertising or video advertising. It was tremendously expensive, but worth every penny, because there are two things that sell destinations. One, well, it's emotion. It's one thing.
The corner set.
And it's the image and the sound, and all of our creative work was underpinned really by visuals and music. Was critical, and it was a lot of money. We spent a fortune on our songs, and I don't think anything's changed. If you want original music behind your advertising, it costs you a lot of money, and so it should.
Karen, quick question. In terms of tech and engaging with the consumer, are you guys looking at things like AR and VR, QR codes, all that sort of stuff?
That's fundamental. We look at different ways to bring experiences into people's lives. So with Etihad, and we did a VR experience with Etihad to show what a luxurious experience on board an A380 is like with that airline. So you use those tools that are available to you, but you also look at brands. One of the brand's biggest challenges, the stats out there around that we as consumers, I hate that term, but we as people, consume around 10,000 messages of some sort or another a day, and so you think about that as a number, and you think about the number of things that are flashing before our eyes. For a brand to capture your attention, and for you to remember it, and for you to go, oh, I'm now going to think about that brand when it comes to fly, I'm going to think about that brand when it comes to purchasing butter or eggs or whatever it might be. You have to really cut through in this, array of content that's out there, and so brands will look at innovative ways to do that, and tech is fundamental in that, because it's tech plays a really powerful role in our lives.
But isn't a lot of that in terms of when you do engage and you maybe purchase, that you actually hook them, so they have a really good experience that time where ladies' cosmetics or something or other, maybe a QR code that teaches them how to apply a moisturiser or makeup, all that sort of stuff. And
it's finding really relevant roles for brands to play in people's lives. In the case of
in terms of value add.
In the case of makeup and so forth, there's 1,000 YouTube videos out there on how to apply different makeup, so a brand has to choose whether it wants to add to that array of content or whether it wants to find a different way to communicate what it's about and the role it plays in that particular audience lives. And we'll look to new technology, we'll look to different platforms, we'll look to whatever's available to us to be able to activate that and again cut through. So you do an analysis of all of the content that's out there, you do an analysis of all the platforms that are available to you, and you do look for innovative ways to as I said, cut through all of that clutter.
Yeah, it's fairly simple, because pretty much most products got a barcode. And with a barcode reader, you can fire off any sort of correspondence or material for the consumer.
The trouble is, the challenge I should say is people actually using something like that relevance point. You can't hit home really strong enough, because we're not as people wandering about our day-to-day worlds, we're not standing there and going, oh, I can't wait for X brand to be involved in my life.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
QR codes, aren't they? I remember when they came out in digital. It's like, oh, we got these QR codes in our agencies, and we'd approach brands. You could put these on your boxes, and you know what? You can put them in your newspaper, and people are going to take a photo and take you to a web page. And it was like crap. People couldn't be bothered. There wasn't QR reader on the phone and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's an Australian mentality. You go to Korea or Japan or whatever, and most of the shopping's done.
Yep.
Etc. So, having a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So if I was after a Pinot Noir, there's a whole rack of them, and I wanted to go along and just scan, etc., that'd be a big
we shop different. Tech in Asia is in terms of shopping experiences absolutely where we should be looking. They shop very differently in terms of the way that we do, the supermarket that doesn't have any products but is full of QR codes.
Correct.
And then the product is delivered to your home.
Yep.
At the moment that you get there is a fairly awesome experience.
QR codes are native now on new Apple devices. So I had a pitch today, and Melbourne Angels, we've got someone approaching us next month who has a QR code based. In fact, somebody we both know, Mr. Young. Mr. Young. So Mr. Young has a kind of a bring your menu to life type experience using QR codes. And look, I often think, how many QR code failures have we seen over the years? Dozens. I encountered them in Japan a long time ago, and I've always loved them. But my team members have said, they used to send me little Tumblr things, photos of people scanning QR codes. They'd send me, a Tumblr of that, and there'd be no photos in there. I was teased relentlessly, and I'd have them on the back of my business cards and said, what is this QR code thing? Whatever. One day, maybe, the time will arrive for QR codes, or at least the idea of them.
Or culturally.
And maybe what we see, I think, in the startup world is the same ideas coming up again and again, but just every now and again you get the time for that idea, the team for that idea, and the market for that idea, just synchronise.
That's really,
and maybe it's now, or maybe I'm going to be a laughing stock of the guy who liked QR codes.
Well, no, I sort of secretly liked them as well, because I was selling the stuff. But
my club.
QR anonymous.
That's right.
But to Karen's point, now the QR codes, and culturally, it's about communicating, whether it's Etihad Airlines and so forth, and that experience and how it makes people feel in the right way at the right time, and culturally, for them to remember it and go, Etihad, Qantas, and how to impact people in that way, and potentially to Jenna's pitch, there's potentially a different experience for it as well. So,
can I ask you a question?
Yes, David.
Well, it's your
David.
Oh.
It's everyone's movement, David.
No. It's your event.
Talking to the queue.
It's your event. And
It's not.
you've brought it together with a particular purpose in mind. I hope it continues. I hope it prospers. But the question that I have, I'm not a major consumer of entertainment of any kind. Right? Most entertainment that's offered to me I dislike. Some of it I dislike strongly. I don't listen to music. I don't go to sports events. There's a whole bunch
What
of...
do you do, David?
He lives a hole in the ground. That's right. That's right.
He connects the hands and
But I do like to invest in things, and I do like to talk to starters and founders and young people who've got great ideas. So my question is quite simple. Do you see, or can you identify, opportunities within this entertainment technology space? Are there places where there are gaps, where there are things missing, where there are needs, where there are opportunities not being met? Are there challenges or problems or things that we can focus on
Do you know what? I actually like investors like David. I had a mobile travel technology company for about 5 years, raised a bit over $1 million, and I had accountants on my share registry, people that hated aeroplanes, I don't know. A sort of variety, but I actually found the investors that actually took the emotion out of it, didn't actually really like the product, but actually thought, you know what, came from a total dispassionate, impartial point of view, were some of the best investors. And it stopped my blindness as well. It's like I was waiting to travel and music or whatever, and they were like, Mark, have you thought about this? And so it's interesting.
David, you had the chance to invest in 2 in the last 12 months.
Why did you say no, David?
Sorry?
No, I mean, it's not an accusation. Why was the reservation?
Which did you have?
No motion.
Sorry?
The one from New Zealand.
I don't invest in New Zealand.
and
That's a bias. That's a bias.
and the hardware for the guitar.
Sorry?
And the hardware for the guitar. The digitalisation
Which was that?
that Ian Moss invented.
Sorry?
That Ian Moss invented.
I did invest in one that was Star Players. It didn't do well.
What was that? Heavy mic on, can't you?
So, there was a business called Star Player that we invested in the early days of Melbourne Angels. It wasn't a success.
Yeah, it's 10
It was
years
a very
ago.
challenging experience. I learned a lot from that.
Okay. Was it the business? Was it the fact that it was artistic or entertainment based? Was it the structure of the business, how they distributed it?
No, it was the other investors.
So it wasn't the entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
That's the problem. The other entrepreneur was in cahoots with the other investors.
I see. That's actually an interesting topic for another ENTTecH
absolutely.
event. I've had like a group of shareholders and advisory boards as well. How can I tell just a little quick story? I had a husband and wife, an accountant, and his wife owned a couple of other bachelor franchises. Doing really well. Net worth of perhaps I don't know, upwards of $5 million. And they split, they divorced. So it was like, so then I'll tell you straight exactly what happened. There was a loan, it wasn't actually a debenture, but there was a loan from the female in the relationship. And so as we went for another round of funding, shit sort of happened. I was like in the middle of their divorce. Well, if she's got a debenture or a loan over a certain asset of the business, then I'm not going to invest in it. It was like a nightmare. So there is, once you get the idea up, and then you bring potentially investors on board, it is a whole other level of management of
Complexity.
I'm sorry.
Complexity.
Complexity.
But still, where are the opportunities in entertainment technology? Now, AI, I understand. Most of it I don't like. Explain why. But I think creating songs by running computer programs is not going to happen for elevator music maybe, but not for stuff that anybody wants to play for. Where are they?
Can I just say, from a person who has actively said you don't listen to music, you don't enjoy the most music that's out there, you might not know that a song that's generated by AI is going to be a great song because you don't really know what that level is because you don't enjoy it. Do you not understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'd be mistaken.
Get rid of your biases, David.
Yeah.
If you put
it a good investment or it's not?
Simon Cowell's business, who started X Factor and the rest, it's called Syndico or something. Psycho. Sorry? It's nuts. Yeah, I agree. But it turns up hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year as a business, and it's the old entertainment, that's the old talent show that was repackaged in a really nice way to create millions of dollars. And then the business model is right, well, we create these stars, let's manage them, and let's sell $100 million worth of albums
and
at a good profit. Sorry?
And merch.
And merchandise and tours and so forth. This is an artist. I think artists are quite a risk sort of in themselves, and it can be really fickle. Someone bears their bum on the street, whatever, and then the brand is quashed. But the people that supply the lighting to all these music festivals and so forth, it's billions. It is billions. So it's almost, all I'm suggesting is to potentially open your eyes to the opportunities that are out there that you may not have considered before.
Can I toss computer gaming in the mix there? If you're asking, if your question where the opportunities are, sure, this could be, and of course we learn more from our mistakes, perhaps, than our successes. And you know, obviously there's a Melbourne Angels have in the past invested in a computer gaming company with not a lot of joy to this point. But I mean, I think the impact of the sort of the Fortnites of the world, the impact of game playing on the next generation of people coming through it's a massive opportunity. And there's a lot of components when we think about people in this room. There's coders, there's people who are videographers, there's people who, you know, probably design user experience. There's advertising people that kind of fund that. It's not a bad spot from Melbourne. There's certainly something like 3 game companies of significant size here. There's probably a further 12.
There's more
you
than
know,
that.
I mean, I'm talking about the big ones. There's dozens of little ones. I'm not sure we're seeing huge numbers coming through Melbourne Angels.
But Paul, isn't the big issue there is that there's 3 or 4 big distributors that control the whole lot, so unless you're in bed with them, you're stuffed?
That is a problem.
I don't know, probably ENTTecH might even have known more than me about that environment. I suspect though, with the advent of the web, particularly computer games and distribution channels, so things like Steam are very dominant. But kids now share very actively on social media. You can distribute if you get a wave of interest. I don't know, maybe if you're interested in computer games from a consumer perspective. I reckon you heard a gamer about you.
We do have someone from the games industry there.
Oh,
Yeah, we do.
Would you like to comment? That'd be fantastic.
Toss in the queue.
Toss in the queue.
Candidate.
Too many old blokes.
So what was the question again, sorry, just to clarify? What was your question?
Look, I'm talking about the opportunity that sits with gaming, and I think the question the point that David made is that the channels are so locked in. The large gaming companies and platforms are so dominant, it's hard to break up. Am I putting words
I mean,
out?
to a certain extent, yeah. So if like you're on the mobile platform, obviously it's going to be Google and Apple. Like in a Western audience, China's obviously a whole different fish there. But then on PC, it's pretty much Steam. We're trying to sell commercial games. There are some other stores that are popping up at the moment. So Epic, people behind Fortnite have started their own store. That's only been happening more and more because like people are realizing how much money can be made there basically. And then obviously you have the consoles with like Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo. And yeah, you're always going to be at the whim of the platform holder. That's just kind of how things are going to work. But
I think the problem with this industry is that if you're a bespoke game developer, you may make a game, an indie game, it's a good game. It gets some traction. It gets on the radar of an Epic or something, and before you know it, they've copied the game, probably done it better, and they've got a $10 million marketing campaign, and you're now an insignificant game. Is that a problem?
maybe in the mobile market, it's not something that I've come across in our existence as a company. Like just straight up clones. Like games, like any creative medium, are always going to be like heavily referencing other ones. Like a new song comes out, right, and then like everyone kind of like bases their song off that for a while. But that exists in games. Like the Battle Royale phenomenon of the last 12 months, sorry, it's 100% that. It's just like the same game with a new skin, different niche. And like
Who are you with?
so I run a company called Most Productions. So we work just out of South Melbourne, the Arcade, which is a big co-working space there.
Can I just jump in to sort of generalise some of the specifics? What was your name?
Joe.
Joe. Joe works at a place called The Arcade, Melbourne. TheArcade.Melbourne is the web address. And there is like, how many companies in that building?
So there's a lot of like really small ones, but between 15 and 20.
15 to 20 companies, but there's probably well over 100, 150 people employed in the gaming industry. The broad general point I want to make is that there are so many facets to it. Who bought Twitch? Who bought Twitch?
Amazon.
Amazon bought Twitch. You know what Twitch was? It's like, it didn't make sense to me, right? But it's like people, so I'm playing my PlayStation game and there's software that videos it and people want to watch it, my game. So I become a rock star playing, Halo or whatever, and I've got, 50,000 fans who want to watch me play a computer software game. To me it's nuts. But it makes a lot of money.
So people have become millionaires.
Millionaires out of this sort of stuff. And I don't need to labour the point necessarily on David, but this is what I'm talking about. This is the way things are changing. This is
my question. Where are the opportunities?
I'm
not a consumer of these things, so I don't know where they are.
Sure. I guess what I hope to say is that ENTTecH, with the help of Joe and some of the gamers at the arcade and government, and Helen was talking about some great stuff that's actually coming out of this building here, that these gems will actually, they're there already. So part of ENTTecH's role is to educate investors and developers to grow their business with investors and consultants and government to actually sort of interact and support this stuff. Without going to where the opportunity is, that is what ENTTecH is about.
I'm wondering if films and games are very similar things in terms of things you fund. So, I'm talking here about the completely different products, or even artists for that matter.
But the essence of a film is it carries a story.
No. They're different products. Story games can be
they appeal to different.
Then I'm not talking about that, David. I'm saying if you're going to take a bet on a film and you're going to take a bet on a game, because angel investment is bets on things. I suspect the probabilities around films and games are may not be that different. Now
I reckon games are probably about 5 to 1 better.
What do you say, Mr. Gamer? Do you reckon, where do you see your investment coming from? And do you reckon you're a better bet than films?
I actually had a phone call today with someone who works in film and television talking about how when they've shown the numbers to their investors of like games compared to film, their investors were blown away by how much better games were. Obviously that's anecdotal and all that sort of stuff, but I think it seems like games is better, but again, I don't have any numbers right now. My brother is trying to get into film, so it's...
But is that a factor of success to failure ratio or investment to return on investment ratio? So if I bet on a film and I put $1 million in and I get a $5 million return, that's a 5 to 1 ratio. But I've probably got a 5 to 1 success ratio on that, right? If I bet on a game, I can put $1 million in, but I might get a $100 million return. But I've got to bet on 20 games to find the one that wins.
No.
Does that make sense?
No, it's the cost factor.
Well, sure.
Films cost you a lot more to make.
Films cost, potentially, films cost more to make, but they're more likely to succeed or have a higher propensity to get to success, whereas the game is much more hit and miss. So it's it's like, do you put the money on the red or 36 black on the casino? Do you see the analogy?
Yeah, I really don't know about films, to be honest.
But look, I think that's the point, is that we can debate along about the value of these different products. And Morris and David obviously have seen many more things than me, but many of the new angels coming in won't have seen these opportunities. One of your questions, I think, was, have you invested in ENTTecH? And sure, we get things that pop up, and I think there are people that understand games, I'm sure, and understand the investment in games. I don't know anyone that does that. I know people who've failed when they've invested in games, and I know people who've failed that invested in films, but it's not an area that maybe is an active consideration set for fellow angels, is it?
Yeah,
and so maybe what we need to do is be more connected to those communities. And one of the initiatives that I'm very keen on doing is having kind of angels in residence where we occupy places like ENTTecH or the arcade, and we kind of go on the journey of learning.
Yeah.
And therefore,
that works both ways.
We're a bit more informed about the risk. The biggest challenge for us, we see a product, we like the product, good. We like the team, great. To understand the risk is really tough if we don't understand many of the questions that David loves to ask is about the consumers and their
What's the market? At the end of the day, what's the market?
Absolutely, and hopefully that's what ENTTecH's about. Could I I'll get to you. Part of it is actually about, because the consideration factor is like, do we invest in a game, do we invest in a film? And what I hope that ENTTecH is about is investing in a platform like Twitch that videos the games. And how much did Amazon buy it for?
It was billions.
Billions. We are talking billions. So all I'm actually saying is to expand your thinking. And you only know what you know. And so what ENTTecH's about is being able to expand people's thinking to go, there's actually an opportunity in Twitch, videoing guys that people that actually play the games. And who would have thought of that? So it's not just film games, apps, it's the ecosystem and the plumbing, called Cisco. It's a bold statement, but there is streaming services that specialise in game streaming, and they've become specialists in that niche worth hundreds of millions of bucks. So it's uncovering those games that are actually there, and that's our role. Yeah.
Let's do two things. Film-wise, film doesn't do terribly well in Australia. If you invest in Australian films, we make 2% of the box office of the whole year, so there's just, the risks are too high. So I'm not surprised people saying don't go into films. It's sort of you need to be connected and know what you're doing to do anything if you're investing in films. But I'll move on from there. One of the things I wanted to talk about at the moment, and I actually want to talk to the lady from EDB, is that when we talk about entertainment technologies, and what can we do with them in Australia? See, I'm a big believer that the big opportunities, the unicorns, they're all gone, and we don't really have any more places to look. But what we can look for is the places where people have not yet looked in terms of new innovations, etc. And those are usually the not so interesting areas, and usually not the big super blue sky, but there's a little bit of sky out there. And you want to try and hit for those areas and look for those interesting entertainment technology branches. For example, the girl from the advertising agency would know, for example, there's a lot of people going to streaming, and people are getting used to streaming, they're watching TV, and they're not seeing ads anymore. What's an advertising company doing about that? And what technologies or what trends? I'd like to know, how bad is that hitting you as an advertising company? How are you going to deal with that? And understanding all the esoteric issues around that could evolve into an entertainment technology startup. So knowing about all those things, knowing how to make a startup is knowing a lot about the particular area that you want to head into. So if you're doing a startup, start learning. But anyway, I'd like to hear your comment on that issue.
I can speak from personal experience. I spent the last 5 years in the States, so I am totally there. I've never seen an ad in any piece of content that I consume. Everything I do is streamed. I moved house recently, personal story, but the internet wasn't there for a bit, so I had to watch free-to-air. Precisely. I was like, oh my god, the amount of ads that is interrupting my content here. So yeah, brands think about, we absolutely do think about that space, and that's why I go back to this notion of, we have to build, we live in an era these days where the way we experience brands and the way we experience things is where we gain those emotional connections. No longer the old model of just interruption. It's been challenged. I have ad blockers on everything as well. I don't see ads on digital media. You just don't. People are not wanting that level of interruption in their lives. So it is challenging for brands. There are different sort of studies around there in terms of how to activate now, and are we watching more TV, and how we I think we are watching more TV, but I also think we're second screening. the whole time, and so we're not paying attention during commercial ad breaks like we used to. So there's all of those sorts of challenges. And yeah, we as brands, again, go back to this notion about what's the meaningful role, what we want to play in people's lives, and then how do we connect in those all the moments that matter. So looking at a consumer journey, and this is breaking down what we do, but looking at a consumer journey and how a person goes about their day, where can we activate for that brand in someone's lives so it's meaningful, relevant, that they'll remember us, that we're playing a positive role in their lives. Now that can be on a variety of different mediums, it can be on a variety of different channels, it can be on a variety of different platforms, but you are looking to activate a brand in the moments that matter in people's lives, because there's other sort of peripheries. TV is a mainstream channel, and it's still really, really important. It's really, really important around, I'm not a media person, so a media person will speak more eloquently about this, but you look at big Super Bowl, you look at AFL Grand Finals, you look at Tennis Australia, they're big sort of media moments, and they still really matter. But yeah, how do you connect in those moments that are relevant for people on that journey? And that's where entertainment tech or any tech comes into play, because we're using all of these different things in our lives, and so they present a whole array of new opportunities. We talk about film, we create, we talk less about creating TV ads now, but more about creating film and content. Film is massive because YouTube is big. We're doing everything in a film sense these days. Sorry?
I can't stand it.
David?
YouTube.
Oh.
Do you know,
The advertising just kills me every time. I just can't watch it.
Yeah, I'm talking about content as well.
Yeah. No, but you said YouTube.
We're
You said
creating.
YouTube. I cannot watch YouTube. It's impossible. It's completely unwatchable.
I think what Dave is saying is perhaps the user experience for him with the ads is and it's annoying for me too sometimes. I think Karen and a lot of digital agencies and brands and musicians are creating YouTube content, just like Netflix and so forth. So as the landscape changes, there's interesting opportunities, and guys and girls like Karen have to manage all this stuff and go, do we do some YouTube? Do we do an ENTTecH sort of stuff? Do we do some stuff with Gemma to create that brand experience?
Yeah.
But the brands got money, and the brands want to interact, whether it's
I'm very much talking about content. Very much talking about content.
I think Alana needs to go here because yes.
Well, I mean, from as a consumer of music, I know that, and also playing Cupid of a record label wanting to partner brands with our artists, and understanding that for artists and brands, it's about the fan experience and about the consumer experience. It's a win-win for both of us. You have a new fan from a fan of a brand, and a new fan of a brand from the artist. A great example that I always come back to is Microsoft partnered with Microsoft's VR technology, partnered with an artist called Childish Gambino last year for his concert series called Pharaohs, which was a very limited experience for fans out at Joshua Tree in California. And no one was allowed their phones out, no one could film it. It was a very personal experience for the fans. And Microsoft and their VR technology gave people who weren't able to attend the event the ability to go on their phones and in a 360 motion be able to see what that was like. And for a person who doesn't really care for VR, I watched the entire concert and loved it. And I think this is definitely a technology that's becoming more exciting for fans in music, is being able to attend a concert, in America. That me as an Australian music consumer, I don't get to see a lot of acts that other continents do. And I think that being able to partner with a company like Microsoft or something like that was huge for both parties.
Don't you think it's remarkable for Microsoft to become a good guy?
I guess so.
Oh, Google is the evil one.
Yes,
Facebook's nearly as bad, and Microsoft is actually the good guy.
Who trusts Steve Bezos? Anyone?
Oh, there he was.
Certainly not his wife.
No, it's one.
I was going to say it was definitely because someone funded the technology that was created for that, but it's now popular.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the role that brands look for too. We look for ways in which we can enhance an experience, make things better, inspire, enrich, deliver something that's different, and that's when brands connect. You know, we've not thought of Microsoft in a really positive light. We've not thought of them before, but now you have a whole entirely different perception of Microsoft as a result of that one experience, and that's what brands look to do, is change that perception of themselves through an experience that you can deliver, and that's where tech becomes really important.
Absolutely. And what would that be worth to Microsoft, honestly? To engage with the music festival in an augmented reality experience as a brand? No price. No price.
Strategic decision.
No price.
It's an investment.
It's an investment, indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do you mind if I wrap up from here? Could we thank everyone that spoke tonight? Helen from ENTTecH, who headed up this place. Feel free to come and see a tour as well. There's some amazing people out at the back you should meet. Gemma, who discussed and quasi-pitched her idea, and it seemed that resonated with some of the people in the audience, which is excellent. Alana from We Are Roll. was that like a 40-year-old dude trying to be cool?
You nailed it.
Yeah, you nailed it.
And Paul Barron from Melbourne Angels, and an illustrious career in tourism, and Carol from DDB, one of the world's global ad agencies. And my name's Mark. Please spread the word about ENTTecH. If you've got an idea, if you're passionate about something, if you're a programmer, you want to get involved, please join the group, spread the word, and who knows, we could all be famous one day.
The group's on LinkedIn, isn't it?
The group is on LinkedIn and also the Meetup group as well. And I think there's Facebook as well. I don't know, any other social media we should be using? I don't know.
This video will be on YouTube. I'll put the link on your Meetup group.
Very good. And thank
Atula from Silicon Beach.
Athal from Silicon Beach, which is one of the oldest tech meetups in Melbourne that has launched and educated a bunch. So thank you. Spread the word. Enjoy the night. Okay.
Yes.